Oh, hi, and welcome. What's going on, guys? Homies and homettes, welcome to the garage. It is swim bait season, and it is tough to beat the old Keister, dude. A Keitech swim bait is probably one of the most versatile fish catching machines when it comes to winter and fall transitional swim baiting, you know, up through November, December, January, into February, depending on your water temperatures. There is nothing that moves in cold water quite like this swim bait right here. For some reason, that super soft body, you can reel this thing at the slowest possible cadence, and that tail will just slightly wag. They tear up easy and they're expensive. I'll be the first to admit it, but there's something about that action that absolutely dominates. I'm gonna show you in this video, we're gonna get kind of in-depth into some stuff. There's some standard ways to rig it. I'm gonna show you one of the best all-around ways to rig your Keitech for winter fishing. But what I'm also gonna show you is a way to set your bait apart, do something slightly different, a slight adjustment to the rig, to the presentation, to sort of make it stand out a little bit. Maybe add a little flash, add a little extra water displacement. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get to it. So let's start off. I got a bunch of Keitechs in here. I'm gonna go through my colors that I have. I keep it super simple. I have a lot of like bait oriented colors. So I got Tackle Warehouse Pro Blue, absolute standard. What's cool about this, I was talking to my buddy Jacob Wall, you can catch them on this color in stained water, clear water, gin clear water. It's one of those super versatile colors. It has kind of like a pearl with a blue back to it. It's just your universal kind of shad pattern and bait pattern. If you got any kind of little minnows, shad, anything like that, this is your go-to. So if you're gonna get one, this is it. I also have the gizzard shad pattern, adds a little more like fleck and things along those lines. There's a little bit of gold fleck, a little bit grayer look to it. Yeah, been using this one a little bit. Tennessee shad. The other ones to look at are hitch, light hitch, and then they just came out with a new color. It's basically green gizzard shad, just like your 10XD, your 6XD. It's a green back shad style bait, perfect for mimicking, whether it's brim in clear water, whether it's shad, whether it's even herring if you're fishing like a herring lake for like spotted bass, things along those lines. So those are my go-tos. The two sizes that I'm gonna use mainly during winter are these guys, which is a 3.3 right there, or a 2.8, which is the downsize, the one a little bit smaller than that. The most universal, I have caught so many fish in winter doing this. The way I like to rig them is on a screw head. So this is actually a Scottsboro Hellfire ball head. You'll notice it has a little screw lock. That's one thing with the Keitechs I always recommend. You want to have a screw lock type like head or rig. It makes it a lot easier to fish. They do tear up easy like we talked about, but that screw head will give you a few extra bites, a few extra pulls, so you're not tearing the bait up as quickly. The other thing that you want to do, a lot of guys are really obsessed with big hooks. And unless you're in Florida or Texas or something along those lines, I'm not a big fan. I like tiny, especially in winter, sort of like standard wire or fine wire hooks. These come with a standard wire, even, I would say even slightly fine wire hook, but this is actually a 2-aught. Maybe if you're running a 3.3, you can run a 3-aught, a 3/0, but for the 2.8s, even the 3.3s, I'd highly recommend going with a 2/0 or a 2-aught hook. Seems to be the best all around. It's really easy to set the hook. All you do is reel down and they're already hooked up. You do have to be a little careful about putting extra pressure on the fish because you will bend that hook or open it up, but I'd say it's worth not missing fish, getting him to eat it with that downsized profile hook, and that hook fits the bait a lot better. You get the most action out of the tail on those Keitechs, and that's hugely important. So if you're gonna rig up one swim bait for winter, grab yourself a ball head. I'd recommend a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 Scottsboro Hellfire and just get the slanging. You can bump the bottom with it. You can fish it suspended over trees, over breaks. There's a million things you can do with it. If you really want to check out in depth, go back and look at some of my videos on Lake Lanier, on Smith Lake, even on Lake Gunnersville, fishing for fish in grass, brush, using that ball head. But you guys don't come to me for the simple standards, do you? You want something a little more technical. So what I'm going to show you now is a couple ways I've actually been fishing it that add a little extra pizzazz, a little extra flair to the presentation, right? Because sometimes you need a little bit of shine, a little bit of flash, something to sort of set your bait apart from all that bait, or to draw those winter kind of sluggish, low temperature fish up. So one of the first ones that I've been playing with is this guy right here. And it is a Z-Man willow blade chatterbait. So it's a very small, you'll notice it's the same ball head style bait as what we were talking about with the Scottsboro. There's a small willow blade on there. And all this thing does is just chatter very slightly, very subtly back and forth. You'll notice that the blade is much smaller than what you'd find on a traditional chatterbait. The one thing I want to give you a heads up on, and if you go on Tackle Warehouse, you'll see this. I fished this. This is the 1/4 ounce. I think it also comes in a 3/8. I fished this on a spinning rod, you know, with braid, 14-pound backing to 8-pound test, a little 610 Halo KS2, pretty soft rod. These eyes do open up when you put a lot of pressure on the fish, especially if you use this on a bait caster. The reason I like it on the spinning rod, not only for the softer rod, is also the spinning reels reel a little bit slower. They're a lower gear ratio. And what that does is it lets you not overfish this thing. You don't want it going and ripping it off of grass. The water temps are cold. These fish are lethargic. It's a very slow rolled presentation. So that slower reel allows me to fish that bait a little bit slower. But what you want to be careful of is opening up that eye that connects with the bait. Always keep an eye on it. There's a lot of guys who've had experiences where that eye opens up and that blade will pull off. I know that's annoying, but the reality is this is kind of a unique presentation, so you got to deal with some issues. Just keep an eye on it, or grab yourself some JB Weld or something like that and put a little drop right in there, let that joker dry, and all your problems will be solved. So the other one is actually kind of the same concept, a little bit more expensive, but these are Megabass Okashira heads. You'll notice right away that it's basically a swim bait head, but it has this little prop on it, just like that. So this prop ever so gently spins. And if you guys go back to some of the videos, maybe like a month ago or so, I was on this obsessive kick with a spy bait. And a spy bait acts with the same kind of action. You really don't feel that much more water displacement, but what it does is it creates a little underwater bubble trail or a little underwater displacement along with some flash. It allows you to put a little swim bait on there. The one thing I don't like about these is you do need to use super glue. The keeper on it is, if you guys can see, it's just that little hook right there that pops up, and then there's some braided line on there, which basically allows the soft plastic to stick a little bit better to the hook shank. It doesn't work that great, especially if you pop it up every once in a while. You do get some bait slippage. So what you'll want to do is put a little bit of super glue on there, but it's just one of those things. It's a headache you'll have to deal with. And this is one that I'm super excited about. I think I got it rigged up right here. I love some Scottsboro stuff. Scottsboro Tackle, it's actually local to me, and they make some cool little swim bait mods. The guy that actually owns it and runs it, he's one of those dudes that loves lure making and does some really cool custom stuff. And what they came out with, they had an underspin for more traditional size swim baits, but what they actually came out with is a Finesse underspin. So this is the Phantom Finesse underspin from Scottsboro. And here's the deal. You're gonna look at this and be like, dude, I throw a fish head spin, I'm cool. Dude, I throw a Gambler Minnow, I'm cool. What's really different with this guy is it does have the downsize hook. That's once again a 2/0 hook. I like that smaller hook, but it does have that screw lock that I absolutely love. I will warn you, I throw this on a 7-foot medium with 12-pound test. It's my Halo TI, a 721 SLX. This hook does bend. It does open up. So you need to pay attention to sort of the flex that you get, especially if you're catching some bigs. I caught some like 3.5-pound spots on this guy, and I did open the hook up a bit, bent it back, was good to go. But dude, pay attention. Now, what sets it apart? How is it different from a fish head spin? One of the biggest problems you run into with the majority of underspins that you, like, go on Tackle Warehouse, look at all the underspins, is that they roll at high speeds. Now, we talked about fishing things slow. That's the general sort of consensus for winter, but oftentimes too, just like that trap bite, you know, like you rip that trap, you fish it super slow, inching it along the bottom or along the grass, and then every once in a while you pop it super hard, and that thing rips out of the grass or rips over the cover, and that's how you get that reaction strike. The problem with these underspins for the most part is that when you do that, they don't just roll like sort of a hunting sort of, you know, reset action. They roll and they wash out and they'll ride sideways and not run true and not rewrite themselves. What's cool with this one, and I don't know how they do it, I don't know if the weight is more forward or the arm actually causes it, or these actually have a much smaller blade than the majority of underspins that you'll see on the market. I can absolutely burn this thing. So oftentimes, like fishing for spots that are suspended, or even some largemouth that are maybe near the grass, but you can't get them to come out, I'll actually tick the grass with this thing and then put like 2 or 3 fast reels in it. If you guys remember a jerkbait video we put up a while ago where we're actually reeling the jerkbait instead of jerking it, it's that same concept. And what this thing does is it won't roll. It literally runs true. It will run straight. You might get a little bit of hunting action mixed in, but this thing will run straight. And that is in complete contrast to, say, a fish head spin or the majority of underspins that are out there. This is the 3/8 ounce. I like to run that because I'm usually going to fish this a little deeper, or I'm going to make a long bombing cast with it and slow roll it down to the depth that I want. But it is a very cool add to your arsenal. Looks just like a lot of the underspins that you see. Fishes completely different. So that's one reason I would highly recommend you guys check this out. So that's a few ways that you guys can rig up some swim baits and do some different stuff with your rigs. A swim bait's a powerful tool, especially for catching bigs, you know, in that cold water. I love it because I love fishing soft plastics, and in winter there isn't a huge selection of soft plastics you can fish, but 100% a Keitech, you will fall in love with it. The fish just kind of take the slack out of the line, or you'll just feel it load up, dude, and your whole spinning reel drag just goes zzz. I absolutely love that bite. It's a super cool bite. Definitely try a Keitech on a ball head, on a Hellfire ball head. You'll be amazed by the bites you get, whether it's shallow, deep, whatever. It's such a versatile lure. But try those little mods. They add some flash to the bait. They give you a slightly different presentation. And especially on those clear water bodies of water, they don't see sort of these flash and sort of water displacement presentations nearly as much. I think everybody thinks you need to be so super subtle, but you put in a little bit extra vibration, a little bit extra flash, and you're basically setting your lure apart, but still being extra subtle because you're fishing that Keitech, which is a tried and true winter fish catcher. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys got anything to add, drop it down in the comments box, because I know you guys know how to fish some swim baits. This is one of my favorite times of year. Even though your fingers go numb, it is so much fun because you can absolutely catch some bigs and do it in some fun ways. We'll see you back out on the water from the garage. Tight lines, homies.